What's up, everybody? Welcome to video 23 of the How to Draw series with Dees. We're getting towards the end of it now. Just like we did with 1 point perspective a couple videos ago, first I taught you the formula, and now I'm going to teach you how to actually use it to draw something. I'm going to draw a castle using my 2 point perspective formula, but I talked to you in the video about some other things that you could draw if you're not as into castles and you want yours to be something else. So let's get to it, and you can find out all about it. Hey everybody, Dees coming to you with another lesson in my series on how to draw. I believe this is number 22. We've been through more than 20 lessons, going from the absolute basics all the way up to where we are now. We're starting to learn about perspective, which is how you make things look like they're going back in space, even on a flat piece of paper. We've been using some different techniques to do that and learning about space, and now we're on to 2-point perspective. The last video I taught you the technique for a 2-point perspective. So I'm not going to teach it as in-depth as I did last time. This time I'm going to show you how you can use it. Today I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite projects, and that is one that I've been doing almost since my first year of teaching. I don't even know. This is an old school one, and it's a 2-point perspective castle. How to draw a castle. So we're going to see the outside walls, and well, you'll see. We're going to get started. So the first thing that we always do when we're doing 2-point perspective or any kind of perspective is a horizon line. I'm going to put mine near the middle of the page. Just makes it easy. Remember, it tells us where the eye line of our viewer is, and it's also going to tell us where we should put our vanishing points. We need 2 of them since we're doing 2-point perspective. And remember, like I talked about in the last video, when you're doing 1-point perspective, you draw the side of an entire flat plane of the object that you're drawing. But when you're doing 2-point perspective, you only need the line. You only need that line, and then we're going to figure out everything going back into space from there. So I'm going to decide down about here how tall that I want my castle to be. How close to the bottom do I want it to be? Do I want room underneath it to be able to draw something else? Do I want it to come up above the center? What do I want? I think I'm going to have mine down here, nice and low. And that's where I want it. Now we know that I got to connect the bottom and the top of the line to both. Again, if you don't know how to do this, then go back to that how to do the 2-point perspective video, the last video that I just did. I'm going to draw it very lightly so I can erase later. All right, perfect castle, right? Wrong. Okay, I got things that I have to fix. I have to take and make parallel lines to this one to decide where I want to cut it off in the back. I'm going to line it up here and slide it over. Be a nice big castle, so it's going to come back about this far. And line it up and slide it over. They do not have to be exactly even. Castles are built by people, so they're not, completely geometrically perfect or anything like that. Plus, a lot of castles are old, so they weren't even trying to make it even building, and a lot of them are made with a bunch of add-ons. They kind of started out small, and then as time went by, they kept building and building. Okay, so now what I have to do, I have to connect these top corners to the opposite, just like we did when we were making a shape, except this shape that we're making now is going to be a castle. So opposite corners connect to the vanishing. And wherever they hit in the back, that's where that back corner is. It's usually pretty hard to tell because it's kind of flat, but I got it. Now I have my outside box around where my castle is going to be, and I can start adding some more things. Like here, I think I'm going to come down with my ruler, of course, with my ruler. I'm going to go just a little bit off to the side, a little bit off to the side. Start down here. Way up here. And I'm going to line it up. Back. And I take this one over to the other side, like we would do with anything else. I scooted it over a little bit just to show that it's popping out some. I want it to be popping out from the rest of the wall. Come down from the top to my other vanishing point. I'm going to come down from the top to my back vanishing point. Started to guess what I'm adding yet? And I need a parallel line to this. Close this off back here. A parallel line to this to close it off over here. And erase the extra. Now, if this is supposed to be a big stone column where people are going, or addition where people are going to stand and defend, then would I be able to see through to these lines back here? No, I need to erase those because it's not a glass column or a glass parapet. That's what they're called, I believe. I'm not a big expert on castles. I just am pretty halfway decent at drawing them. All right. Now, what else do I want to do? I think I want to make it look like my walls have a little bit of thickness to them. So I'm going to take where my lines are, darken that up a little bit first. I know that I want to keep that line now. And then I'm just going to bend it up a little bit. Connect it, still connected with the vanishing point, just bent up a little from where it was. I'm going to stop when I hit the edge. Do the same thing going the other way. Line up where I was before. Bend up just a little bit. Showing a little bit of width to this wall. And then I can line up with the opposite side. And make the back one nice and skinny, because remember the things that are further away from us are going to be smaller. And wherever those corners hit, leave it. Line up with the opposite side. Nice and skinny. Corners hit, leave it. Boom. Okay, so we're starting to get a structure that looks like it could be somewhere in the world, especially once I get some shading in here and I can see less of the leftover lines from before. Okay, so what do I want to do now? What can I add? Let's say, what if I wanted to add a moat that goes around my castle? I could very lightly go from this point down. I'm going to do a point about here. Just decide how thick that you want it to be at the thickest point. So I want my moat to be this wide. And I always have to connect with this, with the vanishing point. I'm going to draw a really light guideline because later on I'm going to come in and change that around. And I'm going to do the same thing, lining up with the other one, and then coming down to the same imaginary point that's a little bit off of my paper. And, okay, so how far back do I want it to go? I want it to go back about this far. But do I want it to be a perfectly straight line? No. I'm going to make mine look a little bit, I'm going to give it a little bit of wiggle. It's called texture, and what this is showing you is maybe that there's grass growing down here, just that it wasn't, I don't want it to look like it's a robot castle. I want it to look like it's a castle on an actual place on Earth, so things aren't always perfectly straight lines. And you'll notice that my wiggles are really tiny in the back, and they get bigger as they come forward. Coming straight across to here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Little wiggles in the back, just to show that it's not perfectly straight. As I come forward, I get a little taller, a little bit more bumpy. There we go. And then maybe towards castle, we can have just a little sort of like, this is where the mud line is, since there's water, but we don't have the castle's not floating in the water. And a little bit of a mud line going this way too. And this is only if you want a moat. I just decided that I wanted one to keep my people safe. Alright, so what do we know about when we have a back corner to something? We have to connect it with the opposite side. I'm going to get my longer ruler so that I can connect all the way. And do it really light and just until I hit the edge of the castle. You wouldn't be able to see through the castle, right? Going back this way, connecting with there. Connecting this back corner to the vanishing point. Boom. And again, I'm just going to, a little bit of roughening up on this line just to make it look like a natural surface. It could be grass or something. Alright, what else do I want going on here in my castle? I think I'm going to decide how tall that I want my bricks to be. So every, boop, this far. You could measure this if you wanted to. Just make a little mark in the front edge. Try and keep them evenly spaced out. I'm going to do the same thing here. And here. And then all you have to do is connect those lines with your vanishing points, and you'll have a nice row that you can turn into bricks or whatever you want to later on. Beautiful. You connect each dot to both vanishing points. It'll kind of look like siding or something that goes on the outside of a house, so you could leave it like that if you want a super modern look. I don't know, maybe yours is a future castle. Or maybe you know about some kind of castle I don't know about that used to have this kind of facade. That's what you call the outside of a building. You call the outside of a few things, actually. We're talking about buildings right now. Okay, these, I'm going to do the same thing, connect to the dot. Just doing all of them to one side first, and then I'll flip around and do all of them to the other side. Boom. That could be wood. Now that I'm looking, it could be like a fort. It could be wood. And now, here's what I'm going to do. Because I know that stones and bricks get smaller as they get further away from me. So I'm going to space out a line. I'm going to draw it this far spaced. I'm just going to do mine direct stack. You could do every other row, so it's more like bricks. I just want mine to be like a nice stack. And then each one, I'm just going to get it a little bit smaller than the last one. This one's a little shorter, making sure that it goes straight up and down every single time. A little shorter. A little shorter. I don't want to have any big jumps, because I know it's going to get small fast enough. A little shorter. Boom. Wait, I think I have one where it looks like this one right here looks a little too fat. I'm going to cut it in half. Boom, we did it. Now, start over here. Same thing. Now, if you want to look it up, there are formulas for how to do this exactly and have it turn out perfect. Where you cross lines and you see where they cross each other, and that's how you know exactly where you're supposed to, at the intersection between the two lines, is exactly where you're supposed to put your next stone. If you want to do that and have everything in absolute perfect perspective, go for it. I'll be very impressed. But you don't have to do that. You can eye this. As an artist, you can use your eye and make sure this looks like it getting a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. I'm going to do the same thing up here. And just like this one, this line right here was a little offset of this line. See this line, a little over for this line. Okay, so what can I do now? I think I'm going to give it that classic castle look, now that I know that I have this. And then come over one and here. Okay, now there's no top. Is that finished? No. I have to connect the opposite vanishing point, so that it looks 3D. Now you think it looks good right now. Wait, it's gonna look better. Connect to the opposite vanishing point right there. Line. Boink. And this one over here, I gotta connect to the opposite vanishing point. Draw this line. Alright, so I can shade this a little bit. The inside versus the outside. Inside versus the outside. Now I got my little spot here where somebody could look out if they wanted to. I could do the same thing going across the top of this if I wanted. I'm not going to, but good if I wanted to. Down here I'm going to shade in because this is the inside of the castle. You move your castle a lot lower and you don't make it come so close, you'll be able to see inside if you wanted to make like a circus going on or a jousting tournament or something. I'm going to come down, assuming that the sun is over here. That's always what I do in this drawing series, at least, coming down this way. I'm going to say, okay, this one cast a shadow. Boom. So now this one looks like it's actually standing out in front of everything. So this side would be a little darker than this side because further away from the light. And then when the edge gets darker, I gotta get that shadow part a little bit darker too. So, what could you do now? You could add creatures coming in down here. You could have things going on in the grass. You could add a bunch of weapons sticking out of here. You could have dragons coming in and attacking. You could do whatever you wanted to. I want you to draw one of these, and I want you to turn it into a whole story going on. If you don't know how to draw a dragon, but you want a dragon, look up a dragon. Look up cartoon dragon if you need something easy. Look up anything on an image search. Have yourself a visual reference to go off of in order to complete this story. But I want you to fill a whole page making a beautiful castle scene. Or if you wanted to make it some sort of like, you don't want it to be a castle, you want to use the same trick to make like a really super high-tech building, one of those that has like all the glass windows on the outside. And when you look in, you're wondering like, what do people do inside of that place? Maybe you want to make something like that. As long as it tells a story and it uses 2-point perspective, I think you're doing something great. And you should practice this. At least one time, but I would practice 2-point perspective a lot in your free time. All you need is a bunch of straight lines, and you can just start making a universe of floating cubes and shapes. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment something that you want to see. If you want us to do a series on something else later on, I'm down to teach whatever, because after all, I am the world's greatest teacher, and you're welcome for me being here. Smash that like. Bye-bye. Ladies and gentlemen, your homework today is to use this to draw a scene. So I want you to do a whole scene where I could understand the story. Like if you decide to do a castle, you might have a dragon going around the outside and a person living on the inside who's trapped and somebody riding up who's going to save him. I don't know. Whatever you want your story to be, it's up to you because it's your artwork. And then I just want you to keep practicing 2-point perspective. Keep practicing 1-point perspective. Fill a few more pages up with just perspective practice. You're never going to hurt yourself by practicing this, any of the perspective things or any of the things that have to do with shading. You just always need it in realistic drawing. And we're getting ready to move on to our last 2 videos that are all about realistic drawing, so let's get it done. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last thing that I wanted to say. This is going to be at the end of every video, I do believe. When you are done with your homework, take it on over to the Discord and turn it into the art submissions. We want to see what you're working on. I will pop in from time to time, usually around 4 o'clock in the morning. Don't get weirded out by that. And I will give you feedback on the work that you have done. So make sure that you check the link below so that you can get to our Discord and you can join these submissions and start putting your art out there for people to see, give you feedback, help you get better at. I got a bunch of artists that have already gone through my class that hang out in there, and if you think you're going to do something funky, you're not, because my mods are going to get you. You understand what I'm saying? I might be a boomer, but my mods are powerful zoomers. I'm not challenging you, though. Please don't mess with please, just be nice. Just do the artwork.